Yo, smudum, who? Spellakula, asti new Hulk. Naturally, wanna scare song. Do deets. Let's get ready to learn something. Why? Yo, smudum, hooks, and salakumais. Nikes, danks, and what klooks new. We Kw'Alhtnta, domi new. Asti stam. That thing I'm going to tell you, that thing I'm going to put in between your ears. So, we are working on Kw'Alhtnta. Oh, sounded real. Sounded like I was 12 beers deep on a Saturday. Oh, Kw'Alhtnta. Why do I sound like Daffy Duck? I don't know. So, that word meaning crest, which we have been through, we have broken it down, we have looked at the worldview, we have looked at the origins. Now it's time to look a little bit more into the present context. Sometimes I will tell a personal story. Sometimes I will tell a story that I've heard that was personal to somebody that has given me permission, or I know it's okay to share. But today I was unable to find such a story. So, I'm just gonna tell you something, learn you something. Hopefully, that is something that will be useful in this building of a house of Stl'mstaliwa, which is your full human experience. Hopefully, this will allow you to look a little bit deeper into that. So let's just open up the bag of popcorn and start munching, eh? The story that I'm going to tell today isn't really much of a story. It was something that I found during my research for this video, which was, it's just something that I remember reading in a book once upon a time. And so I just Googled it and was like, is that real? Or am I just making things up like I usually do? And that thing was that, for some reason, I don't know why, but I always thought flags were a thing. I just assumed that the first caveman who crossed the Bering Sea Bridge, land bridge or whatever, put his face on his cave and was like, this is Ugg's land. This is land of Ugg. We do what Ugg want here. This is Uggadonia. And they just completely had something that identified that as their land, which was not the case. New Hulk, we have now what is generalized as a logo or a flag, or we have a symbol that the nation uses that represents us, New Hulkims. And traditionally, if you wanted to go somewhere and let them know where you were from, you would just say so, and then they would just accept that, or they wouldn't, or whatever. And then so we would also put down landmarkers to show this is the land of the grizzly bear, this is the land of the raven, this is the land of the whomst ever, right? And in the European culture, in the western side of the world, or maybe even Middle East as well, to my understanding, is the way that flag started out was to differentiate in between armies. That was the main thing. Was that okay, we got the red guys versus the blue guys. Stab everyone in red, don't stab blue. And if you stab blue, act like it was a red guy who did it. That's kind of what that was all about. And then, there's only so many colors, especially way back in the day when you couldn't just pull out a pink, you couldn't pull out a neon, you couldn't print all these fancy colors and other things and such and so forth. So you had to be well, here's, we're red, but we got 3 golden lines in the middle, or whatever, to differentiate yourself. And then as wars, and because you think too, we didn't know exactly where the enemy was going to be, right? There's no GPS, there's no Facebook, there's no cell phones, there's no nothing. You wouldn't have been able to know where the army was. So to make it a bit easier, so you weren't just like going around stabbing big groups of people, or because sometimes that would happen, it's my understanding as well, is that like these like roaming travelers would be moving, and then armies would see them and just be like, oh, a large group of people, let's go do our thing. And then that further differentiated into coat of arms, which is a little bit different than just a war flag, because your coat of arms is like, you know, the Sir Lance of House Lot or whatever, and it's like that represents your entire lineage, and that is what you pass on to your generation, and that is something that you pass on to the next generation. And that is something that when people see, you know, that golden lion on a red background, they know that the Lannisters always pay their debts, and they know that winter is coming. You know, it's just it's a European Kw'Alhtnta is what I will say. And so that is the present day context of how flags became from a war thing into representing countries, if I was able to tell that bit. Anyways, El Kukmanu, Kishinumala Gooks, salutations from your, hopefully, favorite salmon belly with a mullet.